Our guest speaker today, Herbert Greene, class of 91, entrepreneur extraordinaire.
My name is Herbert Greene. I'm class of 91. I've been doing real estate for 41 years. Today we're going to talk about to access a bid, fundamental financial literacy, and the backdoor method. I got some vocabulary words here that will be important because when we are getting people to say yes, sometimes we want to sound regular, like we're in their family, and sometimes you want to sound professional, like you know what you are doing. And so learning the lingo is important. So the first one is excess of bid. The excess of bid is pretty self-explanatory. When something is being sold through a competitive bid process like a foreclosure, the first bid is the opening bid, and the winning bid is the closing bid. And the difference between the winning bid and the closing bid is the excess of bid. We'll go into that in greater detail. Foreclosure. Foreclosure is when a creditor finds a debtor in default, and through the due process that's prescribed in the note, they go through the foreclosure process. In Georgia, you can foreclose on somebody on the 31st day of them not paying you. We are a non-judicial foreclosure state. And they will send you a letter saying, give me the money, and then they'll send you a letter called an acceleration letter. So if you're 3 months behind on $1,000, you owe $3,000, they're going to accelerate the loan. They're like, no, we don't want that $3,000. We want the $79,000 you owe. We're going to accelerate your loan to the end. So you get a 10-day letter that you got to pay that's assuming the balance in this case is $79,000. And if you don't, then they will advertise in the legal organ. The legal organ, every county in Georgia has a publication. In DeKalb County, it's called the Champion. Fulton County, it's called the Fulton County Daily Report. And there's a public notice section in here, and they actually have the foreclosure information. We're not talking about foreclosure today, but it's hard to not talk about excess of bid and not talk about foreclosure, because one is sin and one is inequity. They ain't the same, but they look the same. Okie dokie. Security deed, quitclaim deed, limited warranty deed, or warranty deed. Those are important to understand. They unlock a lot of meaning to you. Let's go, I'm gonna start with quitclaim deed. People call it quick, Q-U-I-C-K, but it's Q-U-I-T. And essentially, and there is an academic term for this, and the professors don't get mad at me, but I remember it like this: whatever claim you got, you're gonna quit it and give it to somebody else. You can quit the whole thing, you can quit a third of it, and then the whole concept of owning real estate is a collection of rights. You get the right to occupy, you get the right to sell, you get the right to encumber, borrow against it, you get the right to collect rent, because you can't take it with you. And you can give up all your rights at one time, fee simple, warranty deed, or you can give up your rights at certain times. Some people, I bought properties where it was a billboard on it. And when I bought the billboard, the dude already quitclaimed the income stream from the billboard to somebody else. But the billboard was on the property. So you can quitclaim your air rights, your mineral rights. So I'm going to keep moving. So, but the point is, quitclaim is the weakest way to exchange property for ownership. You can do it, but it's only strong because, see, you're quitting your claim. So if the person had a weak claim, he's giving you a weak claim. Now, if a person had a strong claim, it's good, but you have no way of knowing that, and you want a warranty deed. That's what you want. A warranty deed means that this deed is free and clear from when Georgia history people, who started this? Oglethorpe. When Oglethorpe started the Georgia colony to right now, that property is free and clear. To the center of the earth, to as far as you can go up, that's what a warranty deed does. So you want a warranty deed. Before I understood the difference, I would exchange property by virtue of quitclaim deed all the time. I get it by quitclaim deed, until someone told me how reckless that was. I only want properties to warranty deed. Now sometimes you're gonna get a property, especially if you start doing what we're doing, buying property that's in play. And we'll talk about that later. You're gonna get a special warranty, a limited warranty deed or a special warranty deed. What that means is we warrant this property from the time we got it. We don't know what happened before we got it. Those happen when people buy property by virtue of foreclosure. When you buy property by virtue of foreclosure, you get the deed, it's called a DUP, deed under power. I could explain that, but it's gonna make it be longer than the time I got, and we ain't talking about foreclosures, but we can, just not today. But the point is, if you get property by foreclosure, whether it's a tax foreclosure or a mortgage foreclosure, as the investor, as the owner, you really don't know what happened before you got it. However, foreclosures, people think foreclosure is about losing something. Some people think foreclosure is about buying something. Whenever a capitalist throws a party, the people who are having the most fun, the people come with the most money. That's the banks. Foreclosure is about cleansing title and getting rid of folk so you can own it by yourself. And you can take if you buy a property, if you buy by virtual foreclosure in 2022, and you buying that debt, and that debt was bought in 2005, then you get to capture that 2005 value in 2022. So when values are real high, people want to buy property. I don't buy property, I buy debt. That's another conversation. We're gonna keep it moving because we're gonna get to that. So we talked about security deed. Security deed, whenever you see the word security, just think debt. Security deed is a debt deed, a mortgage deed, a deed of trust, a deed to secure debt. All those mean the same thing. And so a security deed is a mortgage. When you buy a house, you buying two things. You buying the house, and most people are buying some money too. Just like when you buy a car. Most people, unless you're buying a car cash, you buying a car, and you buying some money too. Separate them transactions. Because don't buy a car based on what the note is every month, because they can adjust that to how much you pay by the terms. Don't let somebody who's selling you a car sell you the money too, and if you do, play it up. No. How much is the car? Then I'm gonna come over here and buy the money later. How much is the money? You don't want to combine. You don't want to combine those, because you can get one of these. Boom! You're looking at this hand right here, and they hit you with this. So. And we'll go into that, well, we won't go into it today. But when you buy a property, you sign and you get a mortgage, you sign a promissory note or a note. That ties the individual to the bank. In the note, it explains the terms, the interest rate. How long is it amortized? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Is there a call? In other words, when is the note due? The note ties the person to the money. The security deed ties the property to the money. It can either be a security deed, or it can be a lien deed, or it can be a deed of trust, or it can be a mortgage. The mortgagor, that's the borrower. When I was at Morehouse, I was taught something that I'm not going to teach you. The mortgagee ain't me. That's a damn lie. The mortgagee is what you want to be. The mortgagee is the bank. So sometimes if you can't remember mortgagor and mortgagee is what you want to be. The bank. Mortgagor is a big fat boy. So LTV, loan to value. So if somebody tells you LTV, they ain't gonna stop and explain it, because in our business, it's a common term. If you buy something that costs $100 grand and you put $10,000 down and they loan you 90, then that's a 90% loan to value. If you put 20% down, that's an 80% loan to value. We're gonna keep it on. I'm not gonna talk about per diem, debt coverage ratio, fee simple, or current assets versus current liabilities, because there's gonna be a slide that talks about quick ratios. We're gonna talk about quick ratios because most of y'all are too young to remember Perry Mason. Perry Mason, he was an attorney on TV, never lost a case. That's because he underwrote the cases before he took them, and he wasn't gonna take a case he was gonna lose. Well, if we learn how to underwrite our loans, you'll always get accepted for loans. I ain't never been turned down for a loan, because when I'm turned downable, I ain't gonna apply. So, and somebody has threatened to turn down a loan on me, and I was like, you need to give it to me in writing while you're not giving me this loan, because it's 5 C's, it's character, it's cash flow, also it's capital, it is credit, and somebody help me? Competency. The bottom line is, if you've demonstrated that you can do it, you got enough cash to do it, you got enough cash flow where you've done it, you ain't convicted of no felons, and you got good credit, they don't give you that loan, it's against the law.
Didn't know that.
There's a CRA, a Community Reinvestment Act. If they do not give you the money and you qualify, then you need to tell them not to put it in writing why you didn't give it to me, and I'm gonna send it to the Comptroller of the Currency. Because you discriminating against me, because if you don't give me money, who you gonna give it to? And that's the kind of confidence you will get when you know how to underwrite your own loans. Because if you ain't quite there, you'll say it, but you'll say softer because you're on that margin. Okay, bank is a language. Just like Spanish is a language, just like English is a language, just like music has a language to it, just like math has a language to it, bank has a language. And if you can't speak bank, it's gonna be hard to get money from them. See, you gotta understand what a balance sheet is. You got to understand what an income statement is. There's all kind of financial statements, statements of tax returns, statements of cash flows, all kind. But the ones you need to understand, it's like having a financial calculator. It can probably do 107 things, but I know how to do 7 of them real good. Well, you need to understand a balance sheet, an income statement. You need to, and they need to correlate and reconcile to your tax return. And your tax return need to reconcile to your bank statements, and your bank statements need to be reconciled. You need to understand the difference between a 1099, a K-1, or a W-2. You need to understand there's a balance sheet on your tax return, there's an income statement on your tax return, there's a Schedule C if you got a business, there's a number, but you need to understand what your tax return is, regardless of what business you're in, and you get that accountant down and explain it to you. You gotta know how to do it, but you need to know what those numbers are. And if you don't, then you are financially illiterate. Now, that's okay, because you can be financially illiterate and get a car, and you can get a house, and you might even get 2. But you ain't buying no apartment complexes, no. You're not getting wealthy if you're not financially literate. And if you do, that means you employing somebody financially literate that's helping you. All right, quick ratios. Let's go to that balance sheet. The balance sheet has your assets and your liabilities. They're usually like this, but they're like this. All right, your quick ratios, most lenders are going to look right quick to see how much cash you got, account receivables, and CDs. Those are instruments or assets that can be converted into cash within 1 year. Then they're gonna look and see those are your current assets. Your current liabilities are those bills that you got to pay in 1 year. Now, I ain't gonna tell you why, there's a number of theories, but what I wanna do is I wanna have 4 times cash than I do. I want my current assets to be 4 times what my current liabilities are. So if I got $30,000 worth of bills a year, I want 120 grand in cash or account receivables or CDs. See, people say CDs are a bad investment. They are if you're trying to get a return on your money. But if you want to hold some cash so that you can leverage it, a CD it's not a good place to put your cash, but it's a good place to put your cash where you don't spend it. What's unfortunate about CDs now, they don't even keep up with the risk-free rate. See, now that inflation has increased to 5–6%, before inflation was 3.5–4%, and CDs still didn't do it. But you're gonna lose money keeping your money in CDs. But the point is, your current assets divided by your current liabilities, and you wanna have 4-to-1. You wanna have 3-to-1, and if you ain't got 3-to-1, then you gotta have a special program. You got a question?
What's a CD?
Oh, I'm sorry, good question. I apologize. Any question I say like that, because it's a certificate of deposit.
I bonds good as well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's just giving your money to the bank. They give you, right now I think a good CD getting you 1%, which ain't no real money, but it's secured. Now, just on a aside, understand this, Zelle is not secured, it's not insured. A lot of people get enrolled in Zelle unwittingly. And you almost got to. So if you have a Zelle account, Clark Howard said never use Zelle ever. I don't agree to that. But I have an account that has just enough money in it to pay my gym membership and all the other little stuff I got in it. And I Zelle from there. So if somebody, y'all heard about Usain Bolt lost $10 million, see if somebody hack into that car, they might get $1,000 if they catch me on bill day. But it ain't gonna really get no more money in it. But like if I drop my debit card, you know, I might lose $1,000. Ain't no money tied to my debit card. Ain't no money tied to my Zelle. Because anything that you can send out, folk can get in. And I don't understand that, so I just limit it. Got it, keep it moving. All right, so, look up quick ratios, understand that, because that's how you get disqualified. And the man's still talking to you. He'll look at your thing right there, see that, and you can having a conversation. How'd it go? It went real well. We talked for a long time. Are you getting along? Probably not. Next.
Or why is a quick ratio important?
A quick ratio tells a lender how a person pays their bill and the ability for them to be able to pay their bills. So what happens is, sometimes they'll go as low as 23% of your income. I mean, sometimes they go as high as 25% of income, but the bottom line is, whatever you bring home a week, they ain't gonna want your monthly payment to be too much more than that. So,
And it's also an indication of liquidity. The bank wants to know that you can pay your bills if your property runs into trouble, that you got liquid assets, that you can pay the mortgage and keep the mortgage current. That's real. That's
what he said. Bottom line, if you ain't got no cash, you ain't getting the money.
Right.
And you really do need to, I'm making light of it by defining it, but it's a very important ratio that banks use, benchmark the banks use. And they look at that while you talking to them. That's the first thing they look. The first thing they look at is how much cash, because that's what we know. But they're comparing that cash, them current assets to current liabilities.
So similar to a debt to income ratio just on the asset side.
correct.
Yes, exactly. We're gonna get to that too, but absolutely. Next slide. Okay. Back to the excess of bid, even though we're gonna talk about back, that's out of order, but I'm gonna deal with it when it comes to. The excess of bid, who does the money belong to? Oh, well, first of all, let's talk about what is the excess of bid. We talked about that. It's the difference between the open bid and closing bid. When you own a piece of property, the same thing goes for mortgages, but right now we're talking about tax foreclosures. So even if you pay your property off and you own it fee simple, you still gotta pay property taxes unless you do something called being sovereign, and I ain't figured that out yet. But I'm trying. But nonetheless, you gotta pay property taxes. If you do not pay your property taxes and you try to stop them from taking your property, they will shoot you. What happens is when you don't pay your tax bill on time, you get a letter, hey, you need to pay the tax bill. If you still don't pay it, you get another letter saying in 45 days, this tax bill is going to be turned into a FIFE. FIFE is a Latin word, virus, fascist, whatever, but it means debt. And it means it's like a little mortgage that attaches to your property. You don't have to pay it every month, but it go up every day. And eventually, you can get foreclosed on. When we get to backdoor methods, I'm going to talk about tax liens and purchasing them briefly, but I'll say this. When you buy a tax lien, can't but two things happen. Either they're going to pay you or they ain't. If they pay you, you're going to get your money back plus a little bit of interest. If they don't, then you have to go through due process. And then once you do that, you give the tax lien to the sheriff, and he's going to foreclose on it. When he forecloses on that tax lien, ain't but two things gonna happen. Either they're gonna buy it or they ain't. If they buy it, you're gonna get your money back plus a little bit of interest, maybe a few fees. But if they don't, then you can bid $1 and now you got the property. Another interesting thing about FIFAs, if you buy them in enough number and enough bulk, some of the FIFAs you buy are gonna be real small, like $300. $150, because they're just part of a larger tract. Those tax liens used to not be interesting to me, or of any interest to me, until I had this real smart guy create this spreadsheet that quantified the returns that we get on each one. Because I'm looking at big ones, I'm looking at the ones I want to buy, I'm looking at the juicy ones, but them little bitty ones, imagine that when you foreclose on a tax lien, there are some statute fees you can charge. An appraisal, debt review, document preparation. There's a list of them, and you can't just pick them. It's prescribed which ones you can use. And there are fees you can charge. $100 for this, $125 for that. Well, you can charge up to $600 worth of fees 200 or 300 of them can be your money on a $200 5-fay. That means you're gonna get an over 125, 130% return on that money. You buy enough of, that's what Vesta Holdings does. See, I started tracking what Vesta Holdings was doing, and I'm like, why they buying so many of these little bitty ones? And then I started seeing the fees they charge on these little big ones. Sometimes they would charge $400 fees on a $200 tax lien and still get the interest. People don't go into prison to make $200 to make 200% on their money. And here these people are doing it legally. But anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. So where does the money belong to? So when your tax lien, when your tax liability turns into a 5-fay, then it becomes part of the public domain. Right now, it's still owned by the county, but the county sells them to individuals, investors. So, and then eventually they are foreclosed on. Remember I told you about the opening bid and the closing bid and that excess? The sheriff conducts all of the sale. Me and you did a tax deal one time. Y'all know that new pizza place on Metropolitan, 581 Metropolitan? Yeah, we bought that property with 20 grand down, assumed 50,000 worth of tax liens, ended up flipping it to a guy for 175, and the next day they flipped it to them guys who bought it for 350, and we got paid on every one of them. So tax liens can be very lucrative, but it's like playing hardball. See, if you play hardball, and the pitcher throws the ball at you at 100 miles an hour, he makes a mistake and hits you and you die, that's not called murder. That's called a mistake. You sat up there and tried to hit that ball. Remember that guy? I went to a fundraiser, his bill, what's his name? Ali Katouche. He tried to strong arm us and tried to buy the whole doggone tax lien back when $70,000 was a lot of money to us. Well, you know what? I'm getting off track. So, who does this money belong to? The money belongs to the person who got foreclosed on at the time of the foreclosure, and anybody that had any stakeholder that had a recorded subordinate lien or debt on the property at the time of the foreclosure. See, we don't care who owns on excess of bid. Who owns the property now is immaterial to us as far as getting those funds. And right, last time we checked, the sheriff had about $16 million in excess funds. So who does those funds belong to? I'm talking about now while we're here. Those funds belong to either the stakeholders. The stakeholders are either going to be the owner who lost it, not the current owner, the owner who lost it that day, and anybody that had a recorded lien against it in the order of the lien recorded. We have, Georgia's called time, race, date. And that means your priority of your debt is recognized based on when you recorded it, not when you loaned it. Now how much? Somebody can loan $50,000 20 years ago, and I can loan $5 today. And if I record my $5 before you code your $50,000, when that house sells, I'm getting my $5,000 first, my $5 first. That's why it's called time, race, date. Now, there may be, excuse me, professor, there may be an academic reason why they call it time, race, date, but I said when you loan money secured by real estate, you need to race your butt down to that courthouse and record it, and it's going to have a time and a date on it. And that may not be why they call it time, race, date, but that's why I do. So who has the money? The owner that got foreclosed on, or anybody has a recorded interest in the property. What do I have to do to accomplish this? What you have to do to accomplish this is research. You ain't got to spend no money, you got to spend some time. If you're saying, well, Herb, you've been doing it 41 years, how can I do it with you? Well, AEF. The one thing that we can control as adults, no matter what's going on, is our attitude, our effort, and our focus. So if you come, I'll match your AEF, unless you ain't good, then I'm gonna overmatch you. But if you come with the right attitude, and you give the right effort, and you're focused, it doesn't matter about your skill sets, because all you have to have is average intelligence to do this. But you have, look at it, it's tantamount to, the real estate game is like a big old health club. And you can look at us as trainers. We can walk through the gym and I can show you what all the equipment is and tell you how it works. Or we can walk through the gym and I can work you out and make sure you got the right form. Or we can work out together. Now if we work it out together, I ain't playing. So you can't really work out with the trainer if you're a beginner unless you come with AEF. Where are the funds available? When are the funds available? The minute they get foreclosed on. Well, you know, Fulton County, and I love the sheriff. I ain't saying nothing bad about the sheriff. He's one of my bosses. But it does take a moment for it to do. The list we got yesterday, you get it yesterday or day before yesterday?
The day before.
The list we got day before yesterday has all of the tax foreclosures from December back to 2005. So that means it's a 2-month lag. And we'll talk about how you have to get the list, what you gotta do. Where and how do we pay? Oh, there we go. You go to the sheriff of Fulton County's website and you look for the open record. You go to the tax lien and then you look for the open records request. There's a form you fill out. I think I got a copy of that form. And then you send it to the open records request department. And then they gave us hours in a day, but I mean, I know people. So it might take you a few days, it might not. And sometimes they charge $35, they didn't charge me this time. But once you get the open records request, there is a statute requirement of the county that they got to respond within, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days, 48 hours. Well, see, that's why he's a professor. He knows these things. How do we attain this? Okay. If you don't, who will? Okay, now. When we were here last time, and I was explaining excess of bid, it does sound, well, all my Morehouse brothers coming in here, it does sound kind of suspect. You mean tell me all we gotta do is go get some money that was been there for a while and then give it to somebody? Don't that sound sort of like it's dishonest or whatever? Well, it isn't. Secondly, if we don't get it to them in 7 years, they go to the general fund. The other thing is, what's really diabolical is when a bank or the government forecloses on you, they do a 50-year title search before they do it. So they know who this money belongs to. They know how much belonged to them in theory, because they can see what the origination terms were. They definitely know who it is and how to reach them. And in some instances, they reached out to some counties, like Fulton County, who's conscientious, hats off to Sheriff Labatt. They reach out to the stakeholders and say, you know, this probably being foreclosed on the first Tuesday, and yet, it's still $16 million up there. So if we don't, the government will, the bank will. Got a question?
No.
Okay, cool. How do we...
Well, let me just say one more thing. Keep in mind, the bank can only get they can only get their loan balance. They can't charge you extra. So be mindful that if someone's foreclosed on, and some of that $16 million is heirs property, because they don't know who owns it. They don't know where it went. But the bank can only get what they're entitled to, because it's unjust enrichment if they go beyond that. And that money will sit there. They don't care. They're not going to try to track you down.
Now, with the government, after a certain time, it don't sit there no more.
Oh, they take it.
And we already know how these banks is. I know the word is R. But we already know how these banks is. If they got 70 million sitting down there, what you think they doing with it? But anyway, but it's called, what's it called, Professor? Enrichment?
Unjust enrichment.
Unjust enrichment.
Okay. All right then, it ain't no oxymoron. Every 36 months, we hear about a bank that we thought was good going and getting fined for unjust enrichment. Now, got a new SAT word, y'all. Unjust enrichment. Maybe we need to add that to lingo. Next thing. Okay, what do you have to do to work with us? You gotta have attitude, effort, and focus. Next slide. Sonny picked out them. Weren't those good pictures of applicant representatives? Yes. I thought so too. All right, now, these are the actual steps. You obtain the list from the county. Do you have a slide that shows what the list looks like?
You want me to go
Just briefly. This is what the list looks like. This is one page of the list. This is Fulton County Sheriff file number. That don't have nothing to do with us. Parcel ID. Parcel ID is a more specific address. That deal we did on Stewart Avenue, it was one address, but it had 3 parcels in it. The person that gave us the property, it was the daddy, the daughter of the owner. When she got it quit claim to her, the daddy only gave her 2 of the parcels. So we thought we had the whole thing. We didn't have but 2 of the parcels. Oh, Ali Katouche, not only did he buy the $56,000 worth of liens we couldn't afford, $7,000 liens we couldn't afford, this son of a gun figured out that we didn't have one of the tracks and tried to buy that one. And then we figured it out too, and you know, we got it. And went to a fundraiser that the mayor had at his place last week, and I was giving, relative to me, a big old check. I said, hey, Ali, how you doing? There you go, Mr. Mayor. And that was, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that, you know, I really did. So anyway, this is the sale date. This was sold February 2001. I used to only look at loans, money that been sitting there 2 years. People been doing a very, very good job of getting that money because ain't no real money there but two years or sooner. And I figured the money been sitting there 2 years, they don't know, unless it's air property or there's some kind of dispute. Well, we can solve disputes and we can pierce veils, and that's a whole nother conversation, but we can, and we can probate. I'm gonna tell you this, and this is, I had to pay $5,000 to get out, learn this. There are 3 ways that I know of to change a dead, I'm off topic, but it's worth it, to take a property from a dead person to a live person. You can do it by virtue of a will, and it can be probated. If you ain't got no will, you die intestate, then you gotta be probated. But if you do an affidavit of descent, it doesn't require probation, and it can be immediate. What is an affidavit of descent? It's based on common law. Most people don't know, but it works, and I've done it at least 6 times. Let's say we got air property, and like we had to do with the lady who gave me the 2 tracks, but it was 3, her daddy dead. So he couldn't even convey the 3rd track to us. And Ali Katouche, nice fella, was about to foreclose on the whole thing and bust up the deal. And he was so sophisticated and so smooth, the guy had the $75,000, got scared, didn't want to give it to him. He said, I'm going to take it. What difference does it make? That's what I'm going to do. I'm like, you ain't got a $75,000 reason to talk this mess, man. So I had to go find it somewhere. The boys that gave us, that was selling it for the $375, that was going to make that real big hit, I was like, look, y'all better come up with this damn $75,000 because we know we're going to all miss this money. And y'all better pay me $17,000 a piece for picking this, for being able to do it. And so, and we did, and they did, and we bought the property. But anyway, back to how we did it. The daddy dead. We still got to get a property out the dead, one of the tracks out the dead estate to the live daughter. How do you do it? Affidavit of descent. What is an affidavit of descent? It's an affidavit, and I'm gonna give you the oversimplified version. What you do is you say, John Doe died 9 years ago and had 3 children, Mary, Tom, and Brock. And John would have made Mary the executor and Tom and Brock cool with that. And then you write that down, and Tom and Brock and Mary sign it. Then you do another affidavit and you say, Sarah lived next door to John, Tom, Brock, and Mary. He really did have 3 children, and they probably would have let Mary do it. And I attest to that because I was his neighbor for 90 years or 35 years or 40 years, and they signed that. Mary can sign for John. It's just that simple. Now it sounds like I'm leaving some steps out because it's just that simple. But I can show you the documents and I can show you how I've done it. So that's the 3rd way that you can do it. So bottom line is, I don't know how that got to that, but that's okay. So then this is the date. This is the surplus collected. So that means then after they, yes sir.
Is that before or after probate, or no probate at all?
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the problem with jumping around. That was just a good idea that I thought of I wanted to share. This right. Oh, because I was gonna lose, we were gonna lose that deal if it wasn't for the affidavit of descent.
Right.
And see, I'm gonna get to your point in 1 second, but I said that because a lot of really good deals, the people did. And they don't know how to do it. And they don't have time to probate it. Now, I've learned how to probate too, because that's the trouble deals, that's what you were talking about earlier. The trouble deals is where the money is. I used to go to auctions when I was younger, And me and everybody would be bidding on the pretty houses, the nice houses. And I was like, I can't, these folks, they bid too much. So that's when I started liking the raggedy houses. The houses with the IRS liens on them. The houses that nobody else wants. Them are the ones I want. And I've learned how to unlock them. But anyway, we'll stay on, I'm sorry, don't let me get off. So, on this particular one, this is 438,000, 1.198, 1,098,000, 87,000, 45,000, 13,000, 100 grand, 90 G, 41, 67, you see it. That is the excess of bid. That means, like Professor was saying, what are the residual effects of slavery? Is the shame that we have from not paying massa, which is some bovine manure. And I remember I built a 3-story, 20,000 square foot building on Peachtree Street, and it's my headquarters. I'm very proud of it. And I built it, and I borrowed the money, the whole 9 yards. But at the time, Wachovia, all the banks that told me, yeah, they made getting the money such a big deal that when I got the money, I was so happy. I realized, dude, they just gave you the money to get started. Now you got to build a building. It's got to be done correctly within time. It's got to appraise. You got to get permanent financing, and then you got to run it and pay the debt off and manage it. That's the real work. And they make you think getting the money is the thing, because you have to jump to my son right over there. He about to buy his first house he got a second house, but he about to buy his first for finance. They came today and said, damn, they done ask people some more stuff. How do you ask people some more stuff? I'm like, because they don't believe you paid $21,000 worth of taxes in 3 years. So they want to see the tax transcript from the bank, because you get one of them 97% down, 97% LTV, first time home buyer. So they want to make sure it's got to be well documented. They wanted to see all kind of stuff. Well, anyway, that's back to documentation. So anyway, this is the kind of money that's sitting here. Real talk, $999,294. That means that, I knew what I was saying. So the tax liability, whatever that was, that ain't in there. They get, when the sheriff does the sale, the county get their part. This is what's left. This does not belong to the county. And it does not belong to the sheriff. He has a custodial responsibility for this money. And so this is just one page of 79 pages. Let that sink in for me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Question. All right. So I mean, how does it surplus? How does it collect if someone ends up winning the bid?
That's a good question. You are mixing the two. When somebody wins the bid, they get a tax deed. They have to hold that tax deed for a year because the homeowner, we ain't talking about excessive bid now, we're talking about tax liens, because the homeowner has a year to redeem that property. After the year, the new homeowner has to file a motion to forever bar the right of redemption, so that the homeowner who lost the property can't redeem it. Once he does that, he has the right to occupy and collect rent, but he ain't got the right to encumber. Well, he does, but ain't no bank's gonna loan him no money on it until he performs a quiet title. That's way off subject, but we can talk about that, but not at this, because I'll go over time, unless you got something.
No, I just want you to go through the columns.
Okay, cool, that's right. So this means the surplus collected, that means if the tax lien was 12 grand, and at the end of the auction, they sold it for 112 grand, then that would have $100,000 right here, because the 12 grand that belongs to them. But we so scared of massa that we ain't gonna go back and get our 100 grand. We don't even know we supposed to go back and get our 100 grand. And massa know where it belongs to. Now that's diabolical. But anyway, we're gonna stay. So then this column shows, see this 87,000 was paid. That's why it's zero. This 1,098,000 was paid. Oh, it was reversed. Now, reversal, it could mean a lot of different things. Typically, when you see reversal, that means the owner filed bankruptcy at the last minute, showed proof, and they had to reverse it. It could mean that there was a scrivener's error in the legal description, which is the metes and bounds, and it was something from the protocol or procedure was in error and it negated the sale and it's gonna come back. Or that's what reversal usually means. And the professor might tell you some other examples.
And it's unusual.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all, as you can see. And if it is, it happens when somebody who can afford to pay a lawyer $1.9 million. So it's like, y'all might want to go and rethink that. You know, because if we go down there and be like, son, could you get out of my office? You know what I mean? All depends on what, anyway, I'm getting. So this is a surplus page. This right here, this is the column. This is the money column. This is the column that you're here for, if you're here for excess of bid. So what happens is, flip to the next screen. Go back to the previous screen. Okay, so don't, like you would, don't forget that screen. What was your question, bro?
You remind me about that answer, but that example, 112,000 versus 12. The recollection period, is that the 12 months or is it 36 months?
Well, two things. This money, the 100 grand versus 112, that's the excess, it stayed there. And you got theoretically 7 years to do it, but there's some 10-year-old money on the list. There's some 15-year-old money on the list.
And then that excess is based on the sale versus the actual tax.
Exactly. The tax liability is why you being foreclosed. What it's sold for is what it's worth today on the courthouse steps. That difference belongs to either the homeowner or the first mortgage or the second mortgage. Wally the window man. Who is Wally the window man? Wally the window, do you know in our neighborhoods, the aluminum, the vinyl siding man come there, the storm window man come and give you $7,000 for storm windows, you get them $3,500 down and you pay them $15,000 in installments. And if you over a 10-year period, 7-year period, and if you miss it, then Wally the window man can take your property. Well, I buy all of Wally the window man's deeds, liens. Why not? You know what I mean? I buy demolition power. We're getting off points. Okay, so you obtain the list from the county. You create and evaluate a spread list. What we do is we take that list and we couldn't figure out how to do it, but my brother some kind of way takes Excel, take that list so that we can flip it and make the highest numbers that you're looking for at the top. Because see, to me, I don't really care about the numbers. I care about the money. So all them other numbers don't mean nothing to me. I want to get to the biggest number first. So then this is what we call analyze and separate. In the debt collection business, it's called scrubbing. You scrub the data. But you analyze and you separate it. See, I separate, I ain't just trying to make some money, I'm trying to build wealth. For real, for real. And so what that means, then everything I do is intentional. So I'm looking at that list and I'm putting I'm looking at that last column, I'm putting the most money up, and then I'm looking at the dates to see because money that just got foreclosed on 4 months ago, they could still be trying to figure it out. So I used to go back 2 years, but people been hitting that thing now. So now you got to go back maybe 9 months. Because think about it, if you got 50 G sitting there or more, you ain't gonna let it sit there for 9 months. And if it's sitting there for 9 months, you don't know it's there. Even if you got money, in 9 months, you're gonna come from vacation, you're gonna get off in the, I need to go get that 50 G today. You know what I mean? It ain't gonna take 9 months to say that if you Donald Trump. Analyze and separate. Oh, so then, not only do you separate it by, I separate mine by the amount and by the date or the age. Then when you do the, let's see, oh, no, we ain't got the date. And then what you do is you title search it. Now, the good news is most of everything from 1995 going forward is on the computer. So most stuff I can't title search it on a computer good enough to buy, but I can title search it on a computer good enough to disqualify. So if I go there and I don't see nothing, I ain't buying. But if I see it, if it's $50,000 worth of money and you see one lien in there for $90,000, then I believe that. But if it's $50,000 I'm trying to get and I don't find any liens, Then in my building, I lease space to a title searcher, I give them reduced rent. So I can say, hey Sean, go tell me what this is and use your OAE insurance. Well, when you've been doing something 41 years, you got some advantages. I grew here, y'all flew here. You feel me? So, you deploy. Okay, so now, so you analyze, you separate them. So then you develop a script. You develop a script for two people want this money, who this money is entitled to, the owner or somebody that had a debt holder. So
That's recorded.
that's recorded, excuse me, a debt holder that's recorded. See, he made better grades than I did. But a debt holder that's recorded.
Well, the only reason I say that is he talked about the aluminum siding guy. That's a mechanic's lien. He may find out Mr. Jones died and now he wants to go to the family and collect the money. If that lien isn't recorded, he's out.
Well, not only is it mechanic's lien, sometimes they're finance documents, and it's actually a mortgage or a deed of secured debt. And those are the ones I want, because the mechanic's lien has to be adjudicated within a year, or it drops off. So that, they scare me, but not really. I don't like to buy them, because sometimes mechanic liens it's a challenge to have the power to sell. But you can, but anyway, yes, sir.
How do you avoid breaking sleeping giants? Once you reach out to them, once they're gonna figure out, hey, did you know something they don't know?
Very good. That's why you develop a script for each category. Because you can't say, I know what the money is, and then get them to sign it, like, dude, I know what the money is now. Oh, I ain't see you. I ain't know. I'm sorry. And so you have to develop a script. Here's an example of a script I use when I'm going to a homeowner. Hello, first of all, we're gonna get to that too. Some of this can't be taught. You got to be able to be comfortable with yourself to be able to be comfortable enough to people you don't know. People say, you ain't scared to do public speaking? I get a little daunted doing public speaking when I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But if it's a subject that I understand, the thing I'm more concerned about is talking too much about stuff that ain't about this, because I love it all. So I don't. So a lot of this I didn't have to be taught. But the stuff that I learned, go get Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Go get Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. Go get Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Those books changed my life. Real talk. I mean, they just did. For instance, if I knock on somebody, and learn about histrionics, body language, yes sir.
Can you repeat that?
No, you'll see it on the slide.
The first book?
You'll see it on the slide. What's the boy name? Dale Carnegie, Think and Grow, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He was a pastor. I went to his church in New York the other day. He'd been dead a long time, but I didn't even realize. I didn't know that. But anyway, I did know that, but I didn't know he had a church. Anyway, see, that's what y'all do when y'all give me understanding.
Right.
Okay, a script for a homeowner. So when you read somebody, well, I learned this in the books. When you meet somebody and you want to figure out what you got to do, the first thing is you got to speak loud enough. Because what we say, what? Well, you got to speak loud enough so if they say that, it's because they're angry, because they heard you. Hello, you give an introduction, you identify, you give a salutation, and identify who you are and why are you there. Try not to say, all raw, all raw, all raw, all raw. That's a lapse in your thinking. You know what I mean? It dilutes your message. So you say, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my name is. But first of all, you knock on the door, and if it's on the porch, you go back down and step down. So you see, this is an aggressive stance. That's an open stance. I'm trying to look strong, look big, sexy. I'm gonna open my stance. If I'm trying to be meek and mild and unthreatening, I'm gonna close my stance. I'm going to be below that person. So if they stand up, first of all, I want them to feel comfortable enough to open the door, and I want to be far back enough so they can slam it before I get there. All right, the next thing you do is you say something that is a fact. You in foreclosure? I ain't in no damn foreclosure. No, you say, excuse me, good afternoon, my name is Herbert Greene, and I'm here because your home was being advertised in the Fulton County Daily Report for foreclosure. That's a fact. They either know it or they don't. If they don't know it, You want a seat? I just so happen to about the paper. And if they do know it, then I'm off subject, but I'm giving you a spiel because I remember this one easier. I will give you the money. I will loan you the money to save your house, or I'll buy it as is. Now, they don't want to hear you unless they already got it figured out. And if they got it figured out, if they smart, they still want to hear you. And then you can start asking them the questions you need. Because you don't know what you want to offer or you want to buy. Because all you're doing is seeing the front door and them. But you get to start asking questions. But let's stay with the foreclosure. So what do I say for the script? We'll give you an example. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Herbert Greene. I am here because I work for a firm that does amortization analysis, escrow analysis, and we locate money that people don't know where it is. And we don't look for amounts unless it's excess of $50,000. And either belongs to you or somebody in your family, and I believe it belongs to you. I do not want to waste your time because I got a long list of money, but if you're interested in getting $50,000 or more, then I have some questions for you. The first one I want you to understand is I want a third of it. So if I find you 100 grand, I want 33,000. If I find you 50 grand, I want 15 G. Now I'm not going to say it that way, but I'm just, because that's my vernacular. But I would say it in a vernacular that made them comfortable. If I was talking to you, I might say, dude, if it's 35 G, I want 15 G. You want 30? Or you want whatever the math says you want 20? Now, if I'm talking to your mother, I'd say it a different kind of way. And if I was talking to a professor, then I'd pull out my textbook, my SAT words. I got a dad who's giving them flashcards that beat your behind. So I got some SAT words for you. So then you develop, and so what I'm really doing is I'm coming up with some smoke and some mirrors. And be like, well, damn, it could be an amortization. See, I don't know about you, but if you've ever had a loan and you had it for 5 years and you asked them how much you owe, you'd be like, I done paid you way more than that. Albert Einstein said one of the things that's more fascinating to him is the
Compound interest.
Yeah, the compounding of interest. Well, you must have went to Morehouse. but that is such a phenomenal thing. I mean, you okay with giving somebody 3 times more than you gave. And so you feel cheated, even if you understand the amortization principle. It is, what's the enrichment word?
Unjust enrichment.
It ain't unjust enrichment, but it feels like it is. That's the difference between sin and iniquity. See, it is not iniquitous to come out of the hotel room at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just looked like it.
Interest, collecting money with interest was banned by the Catholic Church for a very long time. And the family that did it, to do it, was the Medicis. They became the richest family in Europe.
It probably relates to the Rothschild.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay, though, well, see, you doing that, but that's the intellectual curiosity. Take it in. So you develop a script, and you can work on that, and there are number ones you can do, but that's very important. And that's why you need to get them books. So you learn how to be comfortable with people you don't know and how to get them to unlock. My little sister is just so naturally good. We go to fundraisers, she can talk to anybody. She talked to both of y'all. Just sat down and said, well, give me your number. I was like, damn, get the number then. And she was just natural at it. I'm natural at it if you're interested in something I'm interested in. Then I can talk to you about it. If I'm interested in you, then I can be I can find something interesting in something I'm not interested in. But it's hard for me to talk about stuff I ain't interested in. And it's hard for me to talk about stuff unless, it's like this. It's a subject that I can talk about. Then we're gonna move on. Locate and strip chase your property. The internet makes that a lot easier. When I was coming up there, this thing called the Haynes Crisscross Directory. If you ain't over 50, you don't know what the hell that is. I'm gonna just tell you that. But if you're over 50, you know what the Haynes Crisscross Directory is. That's when you can take a phone number and tie it to a name. You can take it a street and tie it to an address. And it was this big old book, literally this thick. That was volume 1. And then you had another book this thick. That was volume 2. And that was our internet, y'all. And then they had this thing called a street directory. And you could put every street in the city of Atlanta in there, and they had 90 pages, and on page 37, A25, you find that street. Well, now y'all got Map Merge and Google Maps and all that stuff. So what happens is, with skip tracing, I use a proprietary skip tracing tool called Accurate. You gotta have a reason for Acura to give you. I own bail bonding companies and debt collection firms, so that's how I get to use Acura. And so you're gonna need a skip tracing plan. Now, some of y'all are more astute than I am with the internet, and you probably can find information, but the bottom line is you have to locate people and learn how to find them. One way to learn how to find a property owner is when anything is recorded, whether it's a lien, a loan, or a mortgage, or a deed, when you record it in the top left-hand corner, you got to put the address because you've given the county the original. When they record it, they mail it back to you. And they mail it back to you based on the number in that corner. Well, rich people probably do not want you to call them, and they probably do not want you to know where they live. But let me tell you what they do want. That property tax bill. They ain't playing with that. I don't care how much money they got. I don't care if their property paid off. They paying them property taxes. They want to see them. They want them deeds. So that left-hand corner of the instrument that's being recorded, it may not go back to them, but it's going back to their attorney or representative. Well, let's say for instance, with the properties I got, if I'll tell you how many I got a bunch of them. But the point is, you ain't gonna be able to know some of them are mine. But guess where them property taxes going to? 196 Peachtree Street, every single one of them. So eventually you'll be like, what is this 196 Peachtree Street? If you search at me, you'll be like, what is this 196 Peachtree Street? You look it up, and then you'll see another name. It ain't mine. But if you look at the Secretary of State's office, you'll either see my brother's name or my name. That's when you start getting into it, unless we're really trying to hide, and then you'll see a trust. Or you see a corporation in Delaware, and in Delaware you ain't got to tell who it is. So there are techniques that you learn, but the bottom line is that property, that thing on the top left-hand corner, if you send something there, the person who owns that property or the person who even wrong, they gonna get it. If not, that's a major flaw in their portfolio. And then they are subject to people like us coming to get their stuff. Okay, though, I tried to look mean when I said that, I'm sorry. Okay, contact and negotiate with intention to execute the documents with a quit claim deed. Now, QCD, quit claim deed, that's the time we do want to use one because they can't warranty anything to you. All we want to do is we want them to quit, we're talking about excessive bid, y'all. We want them to quit their claim and give it to us. Now, we don't want more than a third of it. Now, that's not true. I had to learn not to want more than a third of it because I used to bust them in the head to the white meat when I was little. I didn't know better. And then what happened was, and the sheriff creates his own documents, but I had this attorney named Stephanie Wyatt, and she created an assignment of excess of bid for me because I had to teach her how to do it. And then she's like, oh, this is really good, but do you ever feel bad taking money from your own people? She was a white Jewish person. And this particular one, I got like $90,000, I gave him $4,200. I kept the rest. That was wrong. Yeah. That's wrong. That's called
unjust enrichment. Okay. That's stealing. That's stealing.
I was doing them all. When you know better, when you knew better, you do better. And then I really needed that money. Okay. That's another conversation. But now, I don't take, and for the last 30 years, I have not taken more than a third. I base that third on because that's what attorneys take. So that must be an acceptable amount. Plus, when somebody that did not look at me and said, Herbert, you feel funny, just, taking money from your own people? I never looked at it like that, you know what I mean? And I did. And I was embarrassed. And it was a shame. And then I realized that if somebody were to try to bring me in front of the court, I ain't did nothing wrong, but it just looked so wrong. And then the Lord has blessed me so well. And if somebody started looking and researching me, I'm like, damn, you got all this? And you taking this from these people? And it just wasn't, and then I got children now. Back then I didn't, so you want to give a good example. And then, like my mama said, I'm getting closer to the kingdom.
There you go.
So I want to prepare a place for me. Okay, so then, when you get somebody to say yes, you want them to sign 3 pieces of paper. A quit claim deed. Now, if the person's astute, then we'll quit a third of the claim to us. If they're not, we'll quit the whole thing to us and we're going to give them 2/3. Why? Because when we send it up to the sheriff, I don't want to have to ask their permission for nothing. create a quit claim deed for, now I do quit the whole thing to me so I can have control of the deal, but if it's him, he gonna be like, no, I thought you said you ain't gonna have a third. Just quit a third of that to you. He done got you. And then you gotta have his cooperation. But that's okay, because if somebody's that astute, they done about figured out what you're gonna do anyway, and if not, as soon as you give them the assignment of excess of bid, the cat out the doggone bag then, if they can read, okay? But what happens is, once you get them books and you learn how to establish a rapport, so like right now, what I've done, I've thrown in some levity, I changed my tone, I'll walk up, I'm creating interest. And then every now and then I'll say something about going to get that bag, and that'll get people's attention. Who want to get that bag? For y'all that's over 38 years old, 38 years old, that means we want to get that money. Contact and negotiate the owner, get that quitclaim deed, get that assignment and transfer, and then get a release. Now, this sheriff has his own forms, and I would use them. For the last 30 some odd years, I use my forms, you know, because they got a short form, they got a 2-page form, but use the sheriff's form, go on his site and find them, or work with me, and I'll show you how to get them. And then once you get them to sign, get a copy of their driver's license. So I ain't signed that, yeah you did. You signed that when you gave me this. Look. Yes, sir.
Do you make them get a notary?
Well, I didn't, but now the sheriff does. So, good point, you're doing this. So it has to be, but see, yes, there's a notary in my office that work for me, but everybody ain't got that. So you do have to have notarized, and you have to make sure that the notary either does what you say or feels good about what you're doing, because there's a certain amount of contingent liability that the notary assumes by notarizing it. So you come on in and have a seat, bro, if you like. And, oh, I did say driver's license, good. Now, assignment and transfer, what's unique about that? That's right up there with that. Matter of fact, that's even better than the affidavit that said. And I'm going to jump off just for a minute because this is very important. I want to just talk about the backdoor method for a moment. The backdoor method, I call it the backdoor method. Some people call it buying debt, buying notes, whatever. But the backdoor method occurs whenever you're buying an asset or a business or a property, and the owner is unaware that you're buying it, or he's aware and can't do nothing to stop you from buying it. It's tantamount or similar to a corporate takeover, where in a corporate takeover they buy a controlling amount of the outstanding shares to the point where they have 51% or whatever percentage gives them controlling interest of the business. Now, it's a publicly traded business, so they can't just do it like they want to. They just ain't got to ask nobody. But what they do, they can say, but at the end of the day, they say, let's vote. And if you got 51 votes and 100, it really don't matter. And the other 49 gonna quickly understand how this thing goes. Now, you still have responsibility to your shareholders. You can't just not make money, but if you ain't gonna listen. Well, the same thing happens with real estate. You can buy a demolition type thing. You can buy a tax lien. And you're supposed to try to buy the first lien. Sometimes that's difficult, because usually the first lien owner is relatively sophisticated and don't really need your money. That's why I like to go to Wally the window man. He ain't sophisticated. That money been there so long, he done forgot about it, he's written it off, and probably you're not even talking to Wally, because on Wally the window man, his attorney is that top left-hand corner, and that's who you call it. And then you say, hello, my name is Herbert Greene, and I work for a company that buys debt, and we're interested in a lien that you have is book number 74 times, page number da-da-da-da-da-da, is Wally the window man. Can you let me know what it costs to pay it off? And what is the per diem? That was one of them vocabulary words. That's Latin for per day. And what happens is interest payoff is given to you based on a date. So it says this date, this $40,000 is good until February the 28th. Well, what happens if your money comes March 3rd? Well, you don't have to call them and ask for per diem, because sometimes there's a bunch of rhetoric and red tape and bureaucracy. But if you got that per diem, and it's $40,000 with a $60 per diem, and if you're 3 days late, they add another $180 to it. So that's what, and so when you say what is the payoff and per diem as of the 31st, they're gonna know this ain't your first rodeo. A lot of times they don't want to give this to an investor because it's going to be a landslide. And if they do give it to an investor, you know, when you hear me talk, my ethnicity sometimes gives me away. So they ain't used to us being in dominion, but they're used to us having good jobs. So, and if you got a good job, you know the lingo. And I work for, if your company is your company, I work for a company that buys liens, that buys debt. I'm interested in this one. I'd like to offer you 60 cents on the dollar, 50 cents. You don't really care, you'll pay 100 cents on the dollar because all the money right there. Plus, that's on the excess of bid, but on a regular mortgage, all you're really trying to do is get in the chain of title. See, in the state of Georgia, if you have property that's secured by real estate and your debtor is in default, you have the right to cure yourself by going to the folk in front of you and paying them off. But see, Wally the window man, that debt is probably in the 5th or 6th position. You don't really want to buy that, because then you got to pay off the 4th, then you got to pay off the 3rd, and it may eat up all the equity. But what I do is wherever I get in the chain of title, I say, and I negotiate my price, then I say, Wally, would you mind memorializing that in a few sentences just for me? And so you're saying that you'll send me the payoff? Once they do that, and they give it to me in writing, then in my mind, if I got that much money, it's mine. So then what do? I call the first. This is real game. And if one Morehouse spoke in here, I make y'all pay me to tell y'all this is, I mean, really is. So then I go to the first mortgage, and I call them and say, hello, I work for a company that has a recorded interest in this property. Check your abstract. Abstract is the meat of the title search. So when you use the term abstract, they know you know something about title searches. Check your abstract and you will see the lien on book number 44, page number, like the window man, that is my client. Your client can be you. That property is in default, and we would like to buy your position in effort to save our position. Now, you don't really want to buy it. You want to give them the money. But when you pay off a debt, they give you a piece of paper called a cancellation or satisfaction. We ain't trying to pay the debt. We're trying to buy the debt. And when you buy the debt, they give you a piece of paper called an assignment and transfer. Now, that's the key. To give them their money. I'm off the bid now, but this is still backdoor method. I'm gonna spend a little bit on it. So the challenge is to get them to give you the receipt that's an assignment and transfer. Now, it shouldn't be hard to come up with a compelling argument. If somebody wants $50,000, you try to sell your car for $50,000, somebody offer you $50,000, you have to give them a white receipt. Like, no, I want my receipt on yellow. Give me the yellow paper. I'll write down the yellow. Okay, just make sure the $50,000 is right. So, and then, if they have a problem, let's say if document preparation is a problem, I can prepare the documents on my end for your review. Or I would gladly incur the costs, additional costs for document preparation. Just in case they agree they want some more money, offer it to them. Because what happens is, if we got Larry the window man that has agreed to sell his to us for $5,000, we ain't give it to him yet. Because we don't want to give him that $5,000 until we buy the first mortgage. And the first mortgage is 50. This ain't excess of bid, y'all. You need money for this. But it works. So you go to that first loan, and you give them that $50,000, you ain't even got to go and buy this one. But then that would be disingenuous and unethical. And if the Lord you're gonna make $100 grand, why not just somebody if you pay to make 95? Because it's better. In this business, you have to have integrity. You have to be honest, or you ain't gonna be in it long. And it's a long-term play. And there's no other way around it. And you got to always not look at the next man's money, because somebody gonna make more money than you and do less, and that can't bother you. You got to get a return commensurate to your investment value and be cool with that. But the whole point is that when you jump to the first position, now you own that mortgage, you own the second position. And then you can foreclose. Give you a little hint. Hold it. When do you think is remember I told you foreclosure is about selling some, buying some, losing some. Now when you done bought the bank, now you coming to the party with the people who throwing it. Because you selling some, you cleansing some. But you really don't want nobody to buy it. Because if they don't buy it, then it becomes an REO. It's a real estate owned by the creditor. That means you go from loaning them money to owning what they had. What month do you think is the best year to foreclose, best month of the year to foreclose, if you don't want nobody to buy it? The first Tuesday in January. You know why? Because it's cold as heck and everybody's got money still on vacation. Because they done made their money. Matter of fact, people really done make money, they ain't even buying nothing in December, they gone. So Tuesday, on the first Tuesday, this is real game. The first Tuesday in January is the coldest one, and everybody who got money still partying. That's when you sell your stuff. Because ain't nobody out there. Now, if you diabolical, your boy will be out there to bid on your stuff, but that is wrong, and we ain't gonna talk about that. They told me not to even say that. Because I never did that. You can believe that. Okay. So then once you get all your papers signed, you give it to the sheriff's office, you collect your check, and you repeat. Next slide. We're almost done. We already talked about that. Next slide. We talked about that. Next slide. Is that it? Oh. Thank y'all very much. It's a whole bunch, y'all, and I can keep talking, and it's skills that you have to develop. Does anybody have any questions? That must mean I did a good job of explaining it. Huh? Go back to the book, please. Okay. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. In Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, they have this thing called mastermind groups. I have built relative to me, a fortune with mastermind groups. Some of the folk in my mastermind groups are in here right now. The definition, my definition of a mastermind group is, see, if the three of us do a deal, and all of us put together 10 grand, and all we got is 30, then we may or may not do this deal. But if the three of us do a deal, and we put in 30 grand, we can go buy $40,000, $50,000 worth of stuff, then that is a mastermind group. And by definition, it's people who have a common goal. They can have unrelated tasks, but the agenda is relatively the same, the goal is the same. And what distinguishes them, each and every person is given their absolute very best. See, me and that man in blue shirt, there have been some situations that if we didn't win, we both would be homeless. Our women would not love us no more. And we would lose even more hair. So I know it's like in a boat and it's drowning. You know everybody in that boat rowing. Now somebody over there gonna come, he might row. Now I'm gonna stick with these folk in here who gonna drown if we don't make it to the other side. So when you have a group of people and they are giving it their very best, it ain't like they playing, you know. I got a young lady with me, been with me 29 years, one 34 years. But the one 29, if she don't come to work, I'm like, baby, that's okay, you ain't got to come. Because she come to work sick, not sick, she come early, stay late, because this, we've been doing this, all our lives. So I know these folk, even more than my own family, and some of them are, we are tired, and we're giving it our best. And we got different tasks, but we got the same goal. You need to look for that. You need to look for those kind of people. And some people, and it don't last forever. Sometimes it comes in a season. I'm gonna stop talking because it's 7:52.
Herb, before we go, for those people who may want to work with you and they got the ADF, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, yeah. I am going to give you my cell phone number and my email address, and I'll be happy to work with any of us, but we do have to be committed We got to be for real. And I'm gonna be just as interested as y'all, because I don't work every day no more, praise the Lord. And I don't work from Atlanta hardly ever, praise the Lord. But I will come in and work every day with you if you warrant it once I get through doing the stuff that I'm already planned. But, and the beautiful thing about this, you ain't got to be nowhere to do this. But someone has to knock on doors, and someone has to call folk, and that's a skill you got to develop. And you got to learn how to disarm a person and make them talk to you. And some people, the Lord gave it to them, and some people, the Lord got to teach you how to do it.
What's that email?
Oh, my email, well, I prefer you to text me.
Can you put it out?
I sure can.
That's what the.
Oh, yeah, well, how about that? Can I erase something?
Yeah, they go.
Praise the
They
Lord.
gone.
All right.
If they didn't get it while they was here, too bad.
HG at U, name our company, Urban Suburban. USINC.BIZ. That's a Z, y'all. And my number is 404-210-8088-8084. I want to thank you, gentlemen, Dr. Sistrunk and Dr. King, for allowing me this opportunity to come talk to my alma mater. I really appreciate it. Morehouse means a lot to me. I'm a second generation Morehouse guy. It's in my DNA. My mama went to Spelman. Everybody in my family did something at AUC, and it's been rewarding. I lived 3 doors down from Dr. Gloucester, and we would go play Little League baseball, and I said, I.S., you are her. Okay, but I've always had good examples in front of me, so I want to give back because a bunch has been poured into me. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Oscar Sistrunk, and I really appreciate everybody coming. This is our first speaker series, and I think I chose a really good, not only subject, but person. We're going to be doing this a lot over the next coming years. All right, so this is just the beginning. We hope to have 5 or 6 more of these this semester, and then really gear up come fall of 23. Holy cow! Right before you know it. So I really appreciate everybody coming. If you have, reach out to him. I'd like to hear about how you feel about this. We'll probably get this room to be much bigger, so hopefully next time we're going to have more people. Not only do we want to have these really quick, to have these set up so that it's more hands-on, but we're also going to set up doing some field trips. People interested in going out, we've got some alums that are actually building properties out there, and we want to go out on site and have a speaker series where we have our builders out there where they're actually building a house and you can ask questions and we can go through. So it wants to be more of a hands-on speaking engagement here instead of just somebody up here lecturing. So I thought this was a good subject, and we'll keep doing these kind of subjects throughout the semester and the coming years. Really appreciate everybody coming, and thanks.
Thank you.